apologize for the technical difficulty.
Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today's the 14th of April. You look really cute with that white flower.
Sharing means caring, and I have shared something with Michelle.
I felt like death warmed over yesterday. Like, I was literally, like, my nose is still red. We're doing this show. The cold that Leah had, I thought I was out of the woodworks. Cause I was like, how long ago was that? Like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago?
Just a couple weeks ago. I've done it.
And then Kansas got it, and then I got it from him, and oh, happy day. Now, the one day that we show up on time, I had technical difficulties.
You can say it.
Technical
spit it out,
difficulties. So, we would have been here almost on time.
Say Matteo Salvini 3 times fast.
Matteo Salvini.
3 times fast.
Matteo Salvini. Matteo Salvini. Matteo Salvini.
There you go.
I did it.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna.
You're not centered. Okay. There you go.
We're gonna talk about Brexit all day today.
Yay!
And Nigel, we're going to just play video after video of Nigel's awesome speech, and got other people in Parliament raging against Theresa May. There's one video clip that I wanted to find, and I don't even know the guy's name. I couldn't re-find the clip, so whatever. It's in my head. But anyways, I want to start here while people are coming with Matteo Salvini's right-wing movement that is set to just really slam the European Union. And I know that y'all wanted to leave the EU. My flowers are there. No. Yeah, I felt it. I felt like it moved. I know y'all wanted to leave the EU on the 29th of March. I know that's what you were promised. But there is a very exciting consolation prize, and that is seeing the European Union flooded with what I would call an antiviral, like, vaccine.
Okay.
Because you're going to have Nigel Farage, you're going to have a ton of MEPs. Now, I know Dellingpool from Breitbart said he's a little bit worried about the split vote with the UKIP and Brexit party.
Yeah.
Just look at your candidates and talk to your neighbors, and everybody get behind one. You know what I mean? Like, these are your constituencies. Talk to your neighbors. If they're Brexit people, just everybody get behind one. Pick one. All of you. Just try. This has got to be a nationwide effort, okay? Yeah. Pick one.
I'm with you.
Because Sargon of Akkad is running for an MVP under UKIP.
You know who else is? Tommy.
Tommy is, I wasn't sure if he actually did see, I think he said he was going to. I didn't know if he said he was going to, like, put his name in.
You know what I hate? When you're trying to suck up a slushie and you get a piece of ice and it won't suck up.
Okay, so Europe's right-wing populists
on air.
Unite behind Salvini ahead of EU elections. The EU elections just around the corner. I am ignoring you because I think it's rude to drink on air and talk about slushies. We're talking about a show.
It's making it so that I don't have to have, like, snot dripping down my face.
No, I think that's great, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like,
I want to share
when
that with
someone
them.
has a disability, you don't bring it to the front. Like, if, like, their eye or face is drooping, you don't say, "Hey, droopy face," right? So we're just gonna ignore it, and you're gonna just drink your slushie. That's fine.
Go on, carry on.
You can't have a serious moment at all on this show.
That's why they come here.
I know. All right, so Europe's conservative populist parties announced a new alliance Monday with the goal of becoming the strongest faction in the European Parliament while seeking to radically influence EU policies on security, migration, family values, and the environment. You've got Viktor Orban. You've got the leader of the Finns party, Jörg Murthen. And then you've got the... I'm sorry. Olli Katro from the Finns party. Jörg, of course, from the AFD in Germany. Matteo Salvini from Italy, Anders Vistisen from the Danish People's Party. The news is that we are broadening the community, the family. We are working for a new European dream today. For many Europeans, the European Union is a nightmare, said Salvini. Last Monday in Milan. Salvini is spearheading this great alliance that I think is fantastic. And so when he goes there, they're going to meet up with Nigel Farage's party and UKIP as well. And I think it's just going to be this great thing. And I'm just excited for you guys to see this happening. The speeches in the European Parliament are going to be epic, right? Salvini was joined Monday by the far-right Alternative for Germany's co-leader Jörg Meuthen, Olli Katro of the Eurosceptic Populist Party of the Finns, and Anders Vistisen of the right-wing populist Danish People's Party. Most parties now come from other parliamentary groups, the European Conservatives and Reformists, and the Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy. And Salvini is also meeting, I don't know if this article mentions it, I've read numerous articles, that Le Pen and Salvini are coming together. This alliance hopes to form a majority bloc, hopefully very exciting, during the elections, May 23rd through 26th. The most numerous, important, determined, and forward-looking group, he says. We are not aiming to lose or just participate. Our goal is to win and change the rules of Europe. The group's top priorities are to halt all clandestine migration, illegal immigration, restoring political sovereignty to EU nations, protecting the European culture, and stronger European borders. And this article doesn't mention it, but I don't think. But the one thing that Salvini is doing here is he is getting back the gold, and saying this gold belongs to the people. And what that's going to do is, you guys always talk about gold and silver all the time. Gold and silver means that you can coin and print your own money. So what he has in reserves, I think it's like 1.6 billion that the banks in Italy have. He's going to commandeer the gold.
I know, I love it.
From these banks and said, this is the people's gold. And what that does, that gets them out of the euro, which the euro, whether people know it or not, is failing. This whole Brexit debacle, from what I've been understanding, from what I've been hearing, from what I've been researching, Europe and the euro is failing.
Right.
And Merkel is barely hanging on. The EU is barely hanging on. And so they know that by losing Britain, they are going to crumble and fall, because financially they're pretty much insolvent.
Yeah.
And Greece obviously had this huge financial meltdown, and Italy doesn't want to go the way of Greece. And each country, you guys need to understand that each country needs to have control of its monetary system. Yeah. And with the worldwide euro, your country is literally stuck in a box. You can't move. And so what it frees up Salvini, when he has his own currency, then he has the ability. He wants to go back to the lira, age-old financial system in Italy. When they became part of the euro, these nations lost their sovereignty. These countries should not be going insolvent. Spain's having issues. Greece shouldn't have had these issues. The EU is failing these EU countries. Yeah. And this Lega part, the Five-Star Party with Salvini's party, are actually strange bedfellows, because one is more of a left wing and one is more of a right wing, but they're coming together because they do have a monetary the same platform for monetary reform to get their country back, and I'm really excited about that. And Patriot Gallery had mentioned it about the gold, and then I read a couple more articles about Salvini's going to get his gold back. I think this is definitely going to be a thing. I know it's in the works.
They're also seeing that all of the big players are kind of moving that way. Russia and China. Oh, yeah, exactly. They're all doing it too, and so you kind of are in that situation where you're looking around at your peers and you're going, wait a minute, if they know something that I don't know, then I should probably follow suit. I think Salvini's smarter than that. I think he sees the deeper picture. I'm just saying on the surface, I think it's kind of like that. Right.
All right. So he says that, so today on this table, there are no nostalgic extremists. The only nostalgics are in power in Brussels. Today we look ahead with a clear memory of what happened in the past, talking about, fascism and Nazism. But the tired debate of right, left, fascist, communist is not what makes us passionate. He says, or he didn't say this. Political experts say that the May 23rd to 26th European Parliament vote could prove to be a tipping point in post-war European politics if traditional political powerhouses lose support and extremist popular parties gain more clout. These are not extremists. These are the sane people. The extremists say, hey, I'm going to open up my borders and let every Tom, Dick, and Harry in, regardless of if they even have the same values that we do, right?
So hang on, I just had this thought, all right? So we're against the European Union for so many reasons. But what happens if a revolution takes place within the European Union and the power scales tip, and then all of a sudden the populous nations are the ones in charge, and the populous nations are the ones making all of the rules? I think that you would see it would morph into something completely different than what it is right now.
Well, sure, but it would also give the countries more sovereignty, right? It was supposed to be just a common market. You know, it was supposed to be just, hey, let's trade easier, right? So the vote, which involves 705 seats this year, is run as national ballots in each of the bloc states. National political parties with common ideology then unite in the EU-wide groups like the center-right EPP, the center-left S&D Socialists, or the liberal pro-business ALDE. The New Eurosceptic Alliance, launched under the banner Toward a Europe of Common Sense, kind of like that, makes sense, expands on the Parliament's 4-year-old Europe of Nations and Freedom Group, the ENF, which already includes France, far right, National Rally, Austria's Freedom Party, and Netherlands Party for Freedom. The alliance, which is holding a rally May 18th, really right before these elections. It's kind of interesting to me that the rally's right there, right before the elections. In Milan's Centro Piazza Duomo says their invitation is open to all like-minded parties who wish to join the faction. And I know that they're trying to court Poland. And what's very interesting is from our Polish viewers, and if you're with us today, happy Palm Sunday to everybody who celebrates Palm Sunday, a lot of Catholics too, and Methodists and Episcopalians and things like that. I mean, we do too. Happy Palm Sunday to everybody out there. But what I wanted to say was, when we were talking, I had no idea how the Russian relations were so sensitive to the Polish people. Okay, and Salvini's going to see whether he wanted to back off some sanctions, but he wants Poland in his group. Yeah, and so he may have to keep those Russian sanctions going to get Poland in the group. So we'll see how that goes. You guys, what's hilarious is that I follow Christianity Russia Today. There's Russian Today. There's a website, and it's on. I shared a couple links from it on Facebook, but there's a movement in Russia for real Christianity. Nice. And every time Putin or there's a leader that does something in the vein of Christianity, they publish an article. Recently, Putin had said that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were wrong to say that the family could be broken up. Yeah. And we know for sure that Putin loves families, loves big families, and under communism, the idea was to take kids away from their parents and separate them and say, raise them in these communities. Go ahead.
Speaking of families, Nom Nom says, "Oh guys, I'm pregnant. Found out Friday. My partner's over the moon." Congratulations to you.
Congratulations. That's exciting. Yay.
Speaking of families, we're always telling you to make babies for your country.
Exactly. So I want to throw that out there for my Polish viewers who are rightfully upset still.
I'm going to go blow
at Russia for taking over your country. That wasn't nice. It wasn't cool. It was awful. And it was a really horrible past. But and letting the past die is really hard to do. So I'm not going to ask my Polish friends to do that. But I will share that Russia is coming out of communism and embracing Christianity. And I would hope that as a Christian, you can help embrace your fellow Christians in Russia embracing Christianity. This is from The Guardian, obviously totally slanted, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the rest of the world is saying about Salvini and what's going on with the far right. So this is from The Guardian, and it says, this is from yesterday. Steve Bannon told Italy's populist leader Pope Francis is the enemy. Now,
wow.
Obviously, Italians are Catholic, and Salvini is deeply religious.
Right.
But it has given me much hope to see him push back against this, what I'm going to call the black pope, the wrong pope, the bad pope, I don't know. I think you're allowed to say bad things about the Pope. You're not allowed to say them about the religion that shall not be named, but I'm pretty sure you're allowed to say things about. And what's interesting is in one of those Russian religious articles I read, it talked about how the communists in Russia had sent many, many atheist men to seminaries to destroy the Catholic Church from within.
You're kidding.
And there was one woman who went on record in front, like in the 50s and 60s, and said she alone sent 1,200 men into the seminaries, and something just clicked inside of me, and the article said it, and it clicked inside my spirit.
Oh my gosh.
We're talking about all this abuse of these priests. Now the question is, were these Christian men who fell away, who fell into lust?
Singular.
Men's?
There's no S there.
Men's? That's really funny. Or are they atheists?
Right.
Who have absolutely no inclination to serve God or to love people or to love Jesus.
Right.
And continuing this tradition of bringing in atheist priests to destroy the church from within a lot of this abuse happened during this communist influx of atheist priests who destroyed what I believe is a good institution that a lot of the priests in the past have felt a call from God to serve the Lord. St. Mark the Evangelist is discerning that call himself, and I know that he loves Jesus and he loves people, would never harm a child. Exactly. And to the fact that right now when we hear Catholic Church, we think abuse. That is that's designed from the communists who did that. So anyways, and Pope Francis is part of that, in my opinion. Part of that. Trump's ex-strategist advised Matteo Salvini to target Pontiff's stance on plight of refugees. Donald Trump's former chief strategist Steve Bannon advised Italy's Interior Minister Matteo Salvini to attack the Pope over the issue of immigration. I don't believe that he advised him to attack the Pope, but to combat. There's a difference. To defend your country against an onslaught. So this is obviously slanted. It's The Guardian. During a meeting in Washington in April 2016, Bannon, who would within a few months to, leave, Bannon advised Salvini himself that the actual Pope is a sort of enemy. He suggested for sure to attack frontally. A senior league insider with knowledge said, so we don't know. This is an informant, so I'm going to spin this myself. So we do have some T-shirts there.
That's really funny.
So the Pope's plea towards migrants said uncontrolled immigration and organized financial invasion brings chaos and problems, not peace. That's from Salvini. So I wanted to this was just a recent article. That was what that shirt said. I'm pretty sure it says Pope Benedict is my Pope. And this article is comparing this to the birther movement of Barack Obama, that there was a conspiracy. There was a conspiracy. Benedict was a good guy, and he was pushed out because he was trying to expose a lot of this stuff.
So M says, for Europe to survive, the EU has to die. I live in England, and I am desperate for us to leave.
Yeah, I believe that it will. So I wanted to show you that. And also, this is from the Wall Street Journal. And Facebook and Google get an unusual crew of allies in Europe. Nativist parties join in with left-wing groups and others to protest against tighter regulations of U.S. tech platforms. So the U.S. internet giants fighting regulatory pressure in Europe have gained support from an array of political forces that would ordinarily battle each other. In recent months, they call it nativists and anti-European parties. Populists have joined left-wing groups, privacy campaigners, and open internet activists in opposing legislation that would require tougher regulation of online content. Today, digital platforms are largely shielded from liability for copyright violations and posts made by users without their knowledge. The bill would require internet platforms to block the uploading of content from news articles to music and tracks and videos. We talked about this. That infringe on copyrights. In some cases, platforms would be required to license such content and then have to pay people for, and that's a huge big thing. Proponents of the law, including some publishers, musicians, and media organizations, say copyright rules that go back nearly 2 decades need an upgrade, given the ease today of sharing digital files. Wall Street Journal publisher Dow Jones is a member of the News Media Alliance, a publishers group in the U.S. that supports European legislation that would give publishers the right to negotiate payment for digital use. The bill, known as the Copyright Directive, is set to be approved on Monday in a meeting of EU ministers. Arguments by many political leaders opposed to legislation have focused on free speech. Italy's government, in which you've got Matteo Salvini's group with the Five Star Movement, upended the country's long-standing policy of supporting strict copyright legislation to campaign against the bill. Then you've got chairman of Poland's nationalist ruling party argues that the bill is the first step in censoring the internet, a stance shared by the AfD and the pro-Brexit forces in Britain and the UK Independence Party UK. Plurality of opinion will be curbed for young people, says the AfD legislator Tobias Petrica. Upstart populist parties have been particularly adept at using social media for campaigning anti-establishment parties in France and Germany. And so I wanted to kind of give a shout out to these nations coming together and show you that even the Wall Street Journal is recognizing.
So when I logged on to YouTube today.
Oh, another one?
Well, no, this is talking about Article 13, and they have this in their new studio thing that they have set up. Mm-hmm. They list news. And so, within that, they said, save your internet, Article 13 update. The European Parliament has voted on the EU Copyright Directive thanks to all the creators who spoke up. Mm-hmm. Here's our statement on today's vote. The final version of the EU Copyright Directive is an improvement, but we remain concerned. Article 13 could still have unintended consequences that may harm Europe's creative and digital economy. We urge EU member states to keep these concerns in mind as they move to implement the new rules. So I thought that was really interesting.
That's where we come together. All right, so before I get on to all the awesome speeches going on with Brexit, Fury, as Labour's second referendum campaigner, David Lammy likens Brexiteers Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg to Nazis and says he doesn't care how elected they are in rant to the BBC.
I can't even.
So, David Lammy.
A lot of people watching this will be absolutely outraged by that.
I don't care how outraged they are. I think that'll be a minority if they've got any.
You're sticking by that proposition. A lot of people watching this will be absolutely outraged by that.
I don't care how outraged they are. I think that'll be a minority if they've got any sense. Because British soldiers in this country died fighting this thuggery and extremism. And here we are in 2019 and people are bringing it into the mainstream for their own political advantage. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We can't have it.
Okay, so that's ridiculous. And a rant sparked fury among Conservatives who claim the MP for Tottenham has lost it with the comparisons to white supremacists. Mr. Lammy was asked about whether comments he made at a rally last month where he compared the European Research Group to the Nazi Party and South African racists were unacceptable. But Mr. Lammy said those comparisons were not strong enough and referred to Rees-Mogg's retweeting the far-right AfD and Boris Johnson meeting Donald Trump advisor Steve Bannon. He replied, in 1938, there were allies that had a plan for Hitler to annex part of Czechoslovakia, and Churchill said no, and he stood alone. We must not appease. We're in a situation now, and let me just be clear, I'm an ethnic minority. Waving that little flag around. We have in the ERG in Jacob Rees-Mogg someone who is happy to put on his webpage the horrible racist AfD party, a party that's Islamophobic and on the far right. And Mr. Lemmy added, they're happy to use the phrase Grand Wizard, KKK, is what it invokes to me when I think of that phrase in the Deep South.
Oh my gosh. Mikey B says, Lemmy is a loon. Check out his performance on Celebrity Mastermind on YouTube.
Yeah, somebody posted that. And I think that that's actually pretty sad, but it's par for the course. Definitely. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of these videos, and then we're going to hit on some Nigel videos. This is Peter Boone reminds Theresa, the appeaser, that she vowed on the 20th of March that she could not consider a delay further than June 30th. We're now looking at a Halloween Brexit. I don't know if you guys know that, but they want to use, yes, Halloween, October 31st.
Oh my gosh.
for the date. Now, there's a couple reasons behind that, and it all is to benefit the European Union.
Oh my gosh.
One of those being, I guess, there's another vote where European Parliament members would vote on other leaders, I think, or something like that. A little sticky. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've just read an article about it. But there's another vote, and they don't want those MEPs in the Parliament to make those votes.
Right.
Okay. All right. So.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At Prime Minister's questions on the 20th of March, when I asked the Prime Minister why she was seeking to extend Article 50, having promised on 108 times not to do so, she said, as Prime Minister, I could not consider a delay further beyond the 30th of June. We now, sir, have an extension up to the 31st of October. Prime Minister, how are you going to honour that commitment you gave to the House on the 20th of March?
Not going to honour it. There's no honour in thieves. All right. No deal Brexit is manageable and can be done. Every single, what's the DEEU minister? I'm not sure the DE that has worked on preparations. Is that the no deal? I don't know. Has worked on preparations, is in agreement on this. I said as much in this morning's interview on the BBC today. So this is David Davis.
You're a no dealer. Basically, you are let us leave without an agreement.
Well, I'm a default no dealer.
A default no dealer, if you like.
Look, I've always said, for 2 years, that no deal's not perfect. It will have turbulence in the short term. There's no doubt about that. But actually, it's all perfectly manageable. We've done huge amounts of work. Every single DEXU minister, and there've been a number of them now. I'm not just talking about the Secretary of State, the ministers who actually ran the no deal preparation. All of them, including Chris Eaton-Harris last week, have all said no deal is manageable. No deal is, no deal can be done. They're all default no dealers.
And all the experts, people like the Bank of England governor, say it will come at a cost.
Well, the Bank of England has got this thing wrong many, many times. Their forecast.
So have DEXU ministers.
Yeah, so they have. But actually, the DEXU ministers' views have not been tested. But the Bank of England's forecasts have been wrong every time, as indeed has the Treasury.
All right, but if.
So they're pronouncing it Dexu. I don't know what that, I don't know what it is though.
All right, Nigel Farage, ahead of this was right before his launch. So I want to play that of the Brexit party.
Democracy should matter. Goodness me, Westminster used to be known as the mother of parliaments, and here we are behaving, frankly, like a banana republic, ignoring the views of the people. So we want to bring democracy back to this country. We want to bring trust back to this country, because if trust breaks down between the governors and the governed, that can't be a healthy thing for our society. And what we're going to do is put before the British people a group of men and women, many of them who've been very successful in business, many of them who know how to do a deal, and we're going to say we need more competent people. But don't think of this as the Brexit party just standing in the European elections. This is just the beginning of a new political movement. We want a political revolution in this country. The two-party system is broken, it doesn't work, and frankly, the House of Commons no longer represents this country. So this is the first step on a very ambitious, I'll grant you, attempt to change the country.
And he has a smart little haircut too.
A very ambitious attempt to change the country.
I love it.
All right, so this is our funny for the day. All right, so here we have young Claude Juncker.
Juncker.
He's pretty drunk right now. Now he is visiting he's visiting Rwanda. Now this woman right here is the first lady of Rwanda, and they're lighting this thing. Now I'm going to try to make this big, and I want you guys to watch how he almost sets her on fire.
No.
The light of your mother. The light of life.
He has to be, somebody grabs it. He literally almost catches her on fire.
Don't ever give that man a stick with fire.
Here he goes. Here she comes. Bam. Nope.
Don't give that man a stick with fire. Wow.
He shouldn't be, and he should be at home playing checkers. I'm gonna just tell you guys that.
Oh my gosh, that's really scary.
Yeah. So there you have that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So this is Nigel Farage. Everybody's
what
ready
would be
for.
better is if what 498 MPs voted for was delivered, namely that we leave the European Union, and it was very clear, with or without a deal. We should have left on the 29th of March on a WTO basis, something now that the vast majority of this country supports. Every single region of England and Wales, with the exception of London, now wants to leave on WTO terms as opposed to remaining and extending our membership. We just want democracy to be carried out, and if it's not only does it lead to a breakdown of trust in Britain, but our standing in the world is hugely diminished by it. I mean, if this was an African country with a government that effectively overturned the result of a referendum, we'd all be screaming blue murder, saying call in the United Nations. And yet it's happening here in the country that has the mother of parliaments. This is one of the saddest chapters in the history of our nation when it comes to democracy, and we intend to put it right.
Wow.
Wow.
So much positivity. I've never met somebody who's so positive to turn everything around positive. All right, so this is David Starkey. I don't know who he is. You guys do. I guess BBC has this young woman, and Ash Sarkar, and she's kind of a communist, and he kind of puts her in her place, and it's kind of funny. So we're gonna play this. It's been all over the internet.
This is called the confectionery theory of politics. In other words, pie in the sky. The record of communism is unchallengeable, repeated, horrible, and criminal. There is no evidence that it's ever worked or could work in the way you want it. Let me finish. You had a very long and boring film. It was unintelligible.
I know you make a lot of money being rude to people on TV, but come on, play us another tune, David.
We'll conduct a sensible discussion amongst adults. Corbyn and his branch of the left fundamentally hate Britain, hate Britain's allies.
Wait.
They do.
This is
Everything to damage them.
Absolute nonsense.
On the contrary, the evidence is overwhelming.
I'm sorry.
Give me some evidence that I'm wrong.
All right, I can give you some evidence. The other week, I was at a talk
That's
where
called an
Jeremy
anecdote.
Anecdotes are a form of evidence, Professor Starkey.
Are they really?
Yes,
now,
they are.
isn't that fascinating? I thought you were an academic. Shall we move on to...
Ash, I want to hear you out.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that guy's harsh.
I know, but it was funny.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I guess
But he's right though, because they do hate Britain. They want to create their own kind of.
They're out and out communists. Before we did our show, I didn't know that they existed anymore.
Right. They. You can't love your country. It's very interesting. We were watching. I watched that Lincoln movie last night. Well, I was kind of just out of it like a zombie. It's one of my favorite movies. And I have to be honest, there was a time, and I probably was like drunk on Alka-Seltzer Plus, I don't know. But there was a time when I was watching the movie and I was like, I just felt this overwhelming sense of, I love my country. Like, I love my country. I love my country. I am
proud.
I'm so proud to be an American. Like, a very deep, like, within my core, like, I love my family. Like, I love my country.
I felt that too. Literally, I was finishing up some paperwork and I was listening to it and I got the end and I literally was like, had the word to the song in my head. I'm proud to be an American.
Right.
Well, at least
so my point is, you can't be a Jeremy Corbyn. You can't be a communist and love Britain.
And women, yeah.
You can't love your country and have those kinds of views to want to corrupt everything that it stands for.
Exactly. Yes. You guys haven't seen Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis, you should.
It's so great.
All right, so here he is again. David Starkey.
It's very unlikely a real Brexit will happen. There has been an active conspiracy by the political class to stop it doing so. And the referendum gave us a narrowly divided country, but with a very clear majority of 1 million odd, which is very substantial. Many general elections have been won on much, much narrower margins and with a much higher turnout that was clearly for leave. However, we have a House of Commons that was, I think, 75% Remain. And there has been this fundamental clash between the result of the referendum and the composition of opinion in the Commons, and even more so in the Lords. And that is what has been played out.
That is so true. And there was another article that I read today that was saying, hey, everybody keeps saying this was a narrow win.
1 million people?
It was over 1 million.
I mean,
that's the size of the city of Birmingham.
Right.
Imagine the entire city voted to leave.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
That was the margin. This was not a narrow win by any stretch of the imagination. 1 million plus votes.
Right.
No, that's not a narrow win. That's a decisive win. And actually, I think that was in the Nigel article I'm going to bring you, which he's very pumping everybody up, getting everybody excited. And another thing that I read that made so much sense to me, with all of the talk with Theresa May and her deal and all these different things, they're not delivering Brexit. And Brexit is what the people voted for.
Right.
They didn't vote for all these other things. And the House of Commons wants to add unto. It's kind of like, hey, I ordered a cheeseburger. I did not order a fish sandwich.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, no, but you really want the fish. No, I ordered the cheeseburger. All right, so here's Nigel. I've had enough of this. Seeing the British people humiliated.
This is about democracy.
This was the launching party.
This is about trust.
Or rally for the Brexit party.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. He was on fire. I have to say that he was in his element. This was
needs to exist between the governors and the governed for the smooth functioning of a nation. This is about who we are as a country in the world. And what I see is a political class who are happy once every few weeks to return to Brussels like Oliver, saying, please, sir, can I have some more? I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this. I don't want to see Britain humiliated on the world stage. And I believe in the hearts of people in this country that they don't want that either. Our problem is this. Our problem is not the British people who still believe in our nation, believe in our future, believe in our country, and are unashamed to be patriotic about it. Our problem is not with the people. Our problem is with our leaders, who for decades have operated a policy of managed decline. We have the wrong people leading us. Career politics has taken over. We used to have people in Parliament and in politics and in government who did it out of conviction, who did it out of a sense of duty. We now are filled with careerists. The nation is being let down, and I genuinely believe that this country now, we are lions led by donkeys.
That's quotable.
So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about an article that I read from Zero Hedge this morning that talked about what the psychology might be between Leavers and Remainers. And it talked about, and now I'm just going to throw this out there, and I want to hear what you guys have to think, because he said, could it be that Leavers might have more familiarity with death in war, and Remainers do not? Now, he gave examples, because he said that that many Leavers don't like the idea of Britain being tied to an EU army, and their husbands and wives and children and everybody in their family dying for this European cause,
right,
versus their national cause. And I don't know. It was very interesting, but he gave some evidence where he talked about the fact that I believe David Cameron's father was disabled and he didn't serve.
Right.
And Jeremy Corbyn's father was in the reserves and he never served. And Theresa May's father was going to see if he wanted to be a priest, and so he never served. Whereas a lot of Leavers, him particularly, had 4 members in his family that served in the British military, and how it hits home for them, and how many of the Leavers are older, and they remember their parents suffering in war and in battle. And so I want to throw that out there for you guys and see what you guys think about that. People who have actually felt death because of war. Let's see if I play this.
But I find myself now standing here today in my 6th European election campaign. I shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. None of this should be happening. We should have left the European Union. But I'm damned if after 25 years of fighting for this, I'm going to roll over and allow these politicians to do this to us. So let's fight back. Let's fight back. We won't stand for it. We won't stand for it.
Thank you.
But the Brexit Party is now not just about Brexit. In fact, the word Brexit is about far more than us becoming an independent, self-governing nation. The word Brexit sums up the real division that exists in this country. Now, you'll be told that Britain is very divided because of Brexit. The truth is, the reason we have some division in this country over Brexit is that so many of our career political class simply refused to accept the result. Sir Nick Clegg being one. Yeah. Nick Clegg has never accepted the result. Now this one is top of the pops. Tony Blair. Oh, I enjoyed that. Tony Blair never accepted the result.
Oh my gosh.
And in fact, a House of Commons that is a Remain House of Commons and a government that is made up of a Prime Minister and 2/3 of a cabinet that are Remainers have just simply refused to accept the democratic result. We're told that we didn't know what we were voting for. How dare they? How dare they dare speak down to us like that? But it was perfectly clear. Every single leading proponent of both the Leave and the Remain arguments in that referendum said that a vote to leave was a vote to leave the European Union, to leave the single market and to leave the customs union. It could not have been clearer.
Wow. You know, so I want
but I find
to...
myself now standing...
I want to address the fact that there are a lot of people, and I'm seeing them in the comments, that have been a little bit jaded by Nigel Farage because of Tommy. And there's become this, and I know I talk about this all the time, but I think it's really important that you guys understand that I'm looking at Tommy and I'm looking at Nigel, and I'm telling them both that if they keep talking, and I'm telling this to you guys too, if you keep talking badly about the other person, you're not going to be able to do what both of you want done, okay? If you guys are walking away from Nigel because you don't like the way that he has taken, you know, pretty much just like said, listen, I can't touch Tommy Robinson. I can't have anything to do with it. Well, and he said,
I mean, I can understand because...
No, I get it too. I'm just saying, like...
You've got the little people. You've got two different parties, okay? You've got the scruffy people, the regular people, like, you know, I would say we're a part of, and that would be UKIP. You know, just the deplorables, right? You've got people standing as MEPs, like Sargon for UKIP. And but you have to be able to read the tea leaves.
Yeah.
Okay? And Nigel's your Brexit guy.
Yeah.
And if he's not in UKIP, it doesn't have any oomph anymore.
Right.
And it's sad to see, okay? But sometimes you just have to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and look and see what is your goal.
Yeah.
And tell them about the line that Tommy Lee Jones gave. He was representing a man named Mr. Stevens who had a mistress who was black.
Right.
And he had...
this is in the movie Lincoln that we watched
in the
last
movie
night.
Lincoln last night. And this is kind of the same thing. The votes going back and forth, right?
Right.
And we were talking about the 13th Amendment being ratified. That's what this movie is about. I haven't seen it. And there were many Northerners who kept voting against it and voting against it. And a man named Mr. Stevens, played by Tommy Lee Jones, is an epic performance.
My favorite character I think ever played by anybody ever.
He made speeches about the equality of races. Now, you and I would say that that's, oh, duh, but it wasn't duh.
Okay, back then. Gosh, it was so radical. And for 20 years, he had been talking about how all men are created equal and they need to be treated equally before God, in society, before the law, all encompassing. And everybody thought that he was insane. He would have wanted black people to have the vote. And that was completely unheard of at the time.
And somebody had said, do you even believe in equality? You believe in mixed marriages and all
Yeah,
that? So
he gets up and, do you want me to tell the part?
Well, I was going to say, he's told, we're going to make this vote.
Yeah, we're going
to have this vote. And it had to be a 2/3 majority. This was for a constitutional amendment. So somebody counseled him and said, do not say that this amendment is about the equality of the races, but
I do not believe in equality in all things, but equality before the law.
No, I was going to have you give the quote after I said what the guy told him to say. Just tell people that it's just about the law. It's just about black people and white people are the same
before the
law, before a judge, do not steal, all this stuff. So he gets up there and he has this black mistress. He knows that black people are the same as white people. And
it was a setup. They had all the reporters come in and they were going to get him to shout out his extremist views.
And that would bring down the amendment because there were people who didn't believe in equality of the races.
Right.
And that's not, but he needed this 13th Amendment passed. So go ahead and tell him his line was.
Right. So they were asking him, or he was being pushed, do you believe in equality of the races? He says, I do not believe in equality in all things, but I do believe in equality before the law. And there's this big uproar of how dare you say that? And he, you're kind of like watching, like knowing that he is having to go against what he thinks because he does believe in equality in all things. And the bad guy, as it were, is standing there. And so then Tommy Lee Jones says, listen, how can I believe in equality in all things? Because I'm looking at this, and he uses these great adjectives to describe this deplorable, disgusting,
You've got
vile
slime running
creature
through your veins. The Creator made you
right
intellectually
inferior
to
and
other
beings. So how can I say
slime?
that I believe in equality in all things when you're the proof that you aren't equal to the rest of us? And he says, but even you before the law are to be treated equally. Now afterwards,
well, the point is that in order to get this passed, he needed the other people on his side to pass this bill that didn't believe in the equality in all things. And so they had said, do you believe it? That was what hinged these extra votes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
so the vote passes, everybody erupts, and somebody pulls him aside
and says, listen, how dare you? You lied. You've been doing this for 20 years. You do believe in equality in all things. Is there nothing that you won't say? And he looks at him and he says, yeah, I've been doing this entire time. Okay. And I do believe in all of this stuff. And so you're right. There isn't anything that I wouldn't say.
I don't believe that there's quite anything I wouldn't say to have this pass.
To make this pass.
And so when it comes to Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that two of us had to tell a story because it's kind of hard when two people are trying to tell a story.
Yeah.
Trying
to
follow
conjoined twins. They're fine.
Trying to follow a story there. I should actually just played you the clip. It would have been quicker. But with Nigel Farage, he's looking at the BBC. He's looking at Sky News. He's looking at The Guardian. He's looking at the Express, the UK. He's looking at all of these media outlets. He's looking at the upper echelons of political establishment. He knows he's already an outsider. And he's looking at Tommy. And he's like, is Tommy the hill that I want to lose Brexit on?
No. No way. Let's get Brexit passed first, and then we can deal with the rest of that.
Exactly. So
I listen. Am I saying that anybody that's on UKIP should switch and vote for the Brexit Party? No, you got to do what you want to do. You got to, but what you should not do is the things that I'm seeing in the comment section. Some of you berating Nigel when I know that you supported him during the referendum. Okay, so now you're the one that's throwing Nigel under the bus. Tommy made some horrible
decisions. Okay, I back and support him, but he made some bad decisions. Yeah. Okay, and I think that Nigel's
not the bad guy. Nigel is never going to be the bad guy, and he's not a traitor either.
Right.
He's a good person. He's making calculated decisions, and you're not in his shoes. Right. No offense. I love you all so much that are leaving those comments.
Here's the thing.
But you're not in Nigel's shoes.
You would rather not have Brexit.
Yeah.
You'd rather not have Brexit. There's no way. Your country is awful right now. You don't have freedom of speech. Yeah. Nigel can't just say what he wants to say.
Right.
And he's trying to make his country better so that you can say what you want to say.
Right.
You're literally under some totalitarian rules. They're arresting people in your country for saying things online.
Right.
Okay? So you have to recognize the country that you live in and be smart.
Right.
And be smart. Tommy is living under rules that would be normal, right? Under any other circumstances. Yeah, you should be allowed to say what you want to say. You think she's trying to go?
I don't know what she's trying to do. We'll find out.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play. Guys, if you want to support Tommy and vote for him, I want you to do that. But you can do both, okay? You can support Nigel and Tommy. Okay, you can. It's one of those things when you see your friends having a row and you can back them both, right? Okay, this is let me see. I don't even know who this is.
Up until then, people were prepared to give Theresa May the benefit of the doubt, but they knew that she had said she would leave on the 29th of March. And the big problem was, as soon as we didn't leave, you can see all the poll ratings start to crash, and it's wholly linked to the fact that Leave or Remain, they were expecting us to go. When we didn't go, it looked like a complete breach with the pledge that we had made, and that's a disaster for a political party, and there's no question that polling at the moment, I think it's very voluble and very flexible, but it's where it is now, and I suspect it's about right. And my point about this is whether people like it or they don't like it, none of that will be on display because it's all about Brexit at the moment. It's all about whether the Conservatives have delivered on their ability to leave the European Union. And we really have to get out, and we simply cannot fight the Euro elections. I gather dozens of Conservative Association members have now written a letter to the Prime Minister saying they are not prepared to fight Euro elections. It would be an utter disaster for us. I believe we have to leave. I believe we will leave. Both parties were elected on manifestos that said they were leaving the customs union, the single market. The problem has been that inside Parliament, it's stuffed full of people who have never accepted the result. The problem has really been, and in a sense Mrs May made this clear, it's about those in Parliament who are doing their level best, and some of them are my party, to actually frustrate and stop Brexit.
So, the Conservatives are not ready for these elections, and Nigel Farage is ready. I just want to give you an idea. Another weekend, a massive protest in France. The French people are sick and tired of pathetic EU lapdog leader Emmanuel Macron, and they won't rest until he's booted out of office. I wonder why the BBC is not covering this. Another weekend, I wanted to tell you guys that. Salvini and Farage ranked as most important MEPs in EU Parliament. Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini and Britain's Nigel Farage have been named as the first and second most important MEPs to have sat in the 2014 to 2019 European Parliament. The Eurosceptics are rising. Politico have announced their rankings of the 40 MEPs who mattered most between 2014 and 2019, with Salvini in at number 1. He served as MEP between 2009 and 2018. As Politico explained, Brussels is where the Italian Interior Minister and Deputy Prime Minister incubated the talent for plain speaking and using social media, not to mention the Euroscepticism that propelled him to his current position as Italy's de facto leader, where he has been driving the European debate from the right ever since. Meanwhile, Farage, ranked as the second most important MEP, is there because, love him or loathe him, it was difficult to ignore the former leader of the UKIP party. Farage was the star speech maker of the 2014-2019 Parliament, as we've seen those epic speeches. They described his decisive involvement in Brexit as a crowning achievement. There may well be more to come. Salvini's Lega are on course to surge from 6 to 29 MEPs in the next EU Parliament, whilst Farage's Brexit party will be looking to deliver a political earthquake of their own in the UK. A sign of the times that the likes of Salvini and Farage are now driving the debate across Europe. And that's why I want you guys to that's why I really want you guys to get behind him. So we're going to go on Brexit, but little break here to talk about Julian Assange. We talked about him a couple times this week, dedicated a show just to Julian Assange, who is in the UK, in UK prisons, who I've heard he's in the UK Guantanamo Bay with the likes where Algernon Chowdhury was and other terrorists. This is George Galloway, and I just want to listen to his accent all day. George Galloway on Julian Assange's whistleblowing. How is this different from a state-owned media or North Korea media?
Don't you understand that the entire purpose of journalism is receiving information and publishing it? If it's true, of course. If it's true. Well, was it true? WikiLeaks is the only publishing outfit on earth that has never had to retract a single story that they have published. They have a 100% record of truth-telling. Everything they said turned out to be true, and no one even disputes that. It's not disputed that what was in Hillary Clinton's emails was true. No one disputes it. It's not disputed that an American helicopter gunned down journalists and members of the public in Iraq. No one says that never happened. They just say you shouldn't know about it, and you wouldn't know about it if Chelsea Manning had not sent the video to Julian Assange, who sent it to you. How is this different from a state-owned media? How is this different from North Korean media? If journalists, honest publishers, may not accept in fear of decades in American prisons, convey that information to you.
How is it any different? It's all true. WikiLeaks has never posted something, unlike The Guardian, unlike Washington Post, unlike the New York Times. WikiLeaks has only ever published true information. Thank you, George Galloway. I appreciate that a lot. All right. So let me go over here to a little bit more other, let's see. Farage's secret weapon, and I don't know how to say her name. Enyudzita? How do you say it? How do you say Rees-Mogg's sister's name? So I'm going to call her Rees-Mogg, the female Rees-Mogg. She defects from the Tories to join the BREXIT party. It's pretty exciting for the BREXIT party. Dallingpool spoke with her, and he says, as she told me at the party's lunch, held not in Remain stronghold London, of course, but in Coventry, in the heart of industrial England, she had not been driven to despair by the Conservative government's failure to deliver on the result of the 2016 referendum. So many voters I know feel their voices have not been listened to, have been completely ignored, and their wishes have been betrayed. I felt I had to stand up and I had to do something. And so Rees-Mogg, the female, was accused of just following and being brainwashed by Jacob, her brother. And Jacob tweets out, "My sister is my Brexit conscience who ensures I do not go soft, as I cannot even persuade her to spell her name correctly. The chance of brainwashing her is slim." And she says that that is sexism to even suggest it. And Delingpool does say, "I worry that there is a danger it will split the Brexit vote, which will be divided with UKIP voters. On the other hand, with the charismatic Farage at the helm and the capable organizer of March to Leave, Richard Tice, as party chairman, it clearly stands a good chance of capitalizing on the truly enormous groundswell of public dissatisfaction." And so I'm excited. I'm excited about that. We'll take a little break here from talking about Brexit to go to other places in the EU. This was kind of disconcerting. German parents fined for not sending son on mosque trip. The parents of a young boy have received a fine from a German court after they prevented their child from going to school to avoid a trip to a local mosque. A district court in northern Germany fined the pair in July of last year, but the parents of the child attempted to appeal the court ruling, only to have their appeal rejected by the higher regional court this week. The incident dates back to June 2016, when the parents refused to let their son attend school for the day because the school had organized a field trip to the Renensburg Mosque. The court imposed a fine of €50 due to the fact that parents had forced their child to miss several lessons for the day, rather than just pull him out of the field trip to the mosque. That's so crazy that the government can fine you for missing school. I was in and out of public school and homeschooled, and while I was in public school, if I didn't want to go, I didn't have to go. My mom would be in debtor's prison. No, I'm just kidding. I know one year I missed like 21 days. Newsflash. School is a waste of time. Education is important, but schooling, especially public schooling, is a waste of time. You can catch up the next day. I always did. Straight A's as a kid. No problem. At least elementary school. So, trips to the local mosques have been a source of controversy in the United Kingdom, as well as some parents have refused to grant permission for their children to attend such visits. In Cornwall, a school reacted to parents pulling their children out of a trip in 2015 by publicly humiliating their children, singling them out in front of their pupils by forcing them to answer questions as to why their child could not attend the mosque. Later that year, governors in a rural school in Cornwall reacted to concerned parents by simply making mosque trips mandatory for all pupils. In 2017, Staffordshire's Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education also wrote a document in reaction to parents pulling their children out of mosque visits, calling that Islamophobia. While objections are raised about visits to a number of places of worship, they are most frequently about mosques, which raises the bigger question of Islamophobia. Earlier this year, it was revealed that parents in U6 had gone even further and have not only stopped their children visiting mosques, but have also removed them from religious education lessons on Islam. Your thoughts? Your thoughts? All right. I don't know who that is. Mosque visits in the UK, the kids recite the words that make them officially Muslim, even though they don't know what they're chanting. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh? Bernie Sanders was robbed by Clinton, by the way. Swedish migration employee allegedly gave 121 false visas to migrants. There's a couple Swedish interesting news stories I have for you from Sweden. An employee of the Swedish Migration Board is facing scrutiny and charges after being accused of just handing out the false visas to 121 Afghan migrants. Here you go. Come into my country. I don't care if you're a rapist. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're not a refugee. Just to come in. The employee, who has not been identified, is said to have started working for the agency in the mid-2000s, but prosecutors say he likely carried out his crimes while working temporarily. at the Foreign Affairs Ministry. He had already been dismissed from working at the Migration Board in 2017 after a previous investigation found that he had changed 9 rejected visa applications to acceptances and had given another 14 visas that shouldn't have been approved. And you wonder, how are these people getting in the country? Well, now you know. Prosecutor Arne Ford said that the man is suspected of working with others in a potential people smuggling network. It gets even worse. People smuggling network. It's not just like, hey, you want to come into the country? Sure. No, people smuggling. Probably for money here. And that 2 other suspects, which neither of which worked at the Migration Board, were arrested in connection with the accusations. The principal suspect is suspected of a gross misconduct and others for helping with that crime, Forrest said, and went on to add there are 121 cases. And there's probably more. Whether or not the main suspect was receiving financial compensation for the visas is unclear, as Forrest said that he did not want to speculate as the investigation is still ongoing. The prosecutor added that 21 of the Afghans applied for a travel visa, claiming a company had invited them to a tennis tournament. But according to the Migration Board, the invites were clearly forgeries and should have been recognized as such. So, that's into Sweden. There's a video I want to share. I think I have it up. Not that one. Not that one. Here we go. Swedish woman. This is crazy, by the way. This Swedish far left feminist MP declares war on all men. Why did it go away? No, come back. Come back. Come, baby, come back. When looking at you, we can't tell if you're a rapist or not, and we therefore assume all men are rapists, and this is insane, and this is why all men must take collective responsibility, she says. Sitting upstairs. Yes. She went all the way around the side, and we're just... Wow, you got your exercise. Okay, so you're here for this Swedish far-left woman.
Oh, boy.
You missed the George Galloway clip. It's
okay.
a wonderful accent.
No, that's not. That's a poor impersonation.
Sorry, it was close. Sorry.
Don't even try Galloway.
He's awesome.
He is.
It's like Sean Connery.
Yeah, don't.
She says that when she looks at all men, when anybody looks at all men are rapists, and all men must take collective responsibility. Now, my question was, so when you look at all migrants, are they all rapists?
Vi kan inte se på dig om du är...
Now you have to read it out loud.
Because we cannot look at you and see whether you are a rapist or not.
Eller inte.
We must assume all men are rapists. That is the brutal truth. That is how a structural problem looks alike. That is why men must take their collective responsibility. All men. Alla men. Alla men.
Although, not to play devil's advocate here, I can understand this extremist standpoint because of what is happening in Sweden.
Yeah, but if we did that, we would be racist, because if she wants to do the whole profiling thing,
right,
we can narrow it down,
yeah,
to a subset of men. But if you do that, Sweden will put you in jail.
Right.
But she can sit there in her parliament and just say all men and get away with that just fine. But if you say all Afghan men must take collective responsibility.
Right.
All Pakistani men, say that in the UK, put you in jail right that. Quicker than a New York minute, they put you in jail for saying all Pakistani men must take collective responsibility. We'd look at them all as rapists. I'm not saying that. She's saying that. In this feeding. So, all right. Oh, wait. I'm not done with Sweden.
Oh, boy.
41 of Swedish municipalities being forced to take back ISIS members. Now, I wonder if anybody will stand up and say, when we look at ISIS members, all we see is ISIS members. So, all the ISIS members must take responsibility for being ISIS members.
Right.
All I see is terrorists, right?
Cat Liver says the women are being brainwashed in the educational system and society.
Yeah. Why do I tell you schooling is bad? Education is good. Schooling is bad. A list from the Center of Violent Extremism has revealed that 41 of the 290 Swedish municipalities are expected to be forced to accommodate returning ISIS members. They had chopped people's heads off. They were waging jihad, which is war against infidels. That's y'all. Just infidel. That's you. Anybody who's not them. The CVE invited representatives from 41 areas to an event. Come on, come and just show you how allow decapitators back. To teach them more about their terror group. In order to provide, was it a pizza party? Hey, I got some people I want to drop off for you.
Oh my gosh.
Provide support to the municipality. Support. Yeah. But don't look at them and don't make them all take collective responsibility. For the municipalities that have or may be able to receive returning children and adults. I love how they say children and adults. From areas previously controlled by the Islamic State. Anders Kretz, a senior advisor at the CVE, said that their information about Islamic State members who were on their way home
from the Middle East.
What? That's not.
Were you looking for a map?
I'm like, these people, they went to Syria because they felt like that was home. Mm-hmm. Sweden's not their home.
Right.
They're not, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
That's why they went. That they felt like that was home. That's why they went to wage battle for your home. Right? Who had already returned to Sweden and had come from the Swedish security police, Sapo. Carl Mellon, a press officer at the Sapo, confirmed that they were working with the CVE on the matter, saying the information goes on to all those who are involved in one way or another for the best way to work with the issue. That's a nice way to put it. Work with the issue. That's like 9/11 was an issue. Some people did some things. The purpose of this is to create the conditions for police and municipalities to be able to handle the individuals who are or have been in conflict areas and possibly returning to Sweden. The areas are being forced to take the returnees home under Swedish law. They have Swedish passports and cannot be turned away. The returnees have the right to settle where they like and even claim social benefits.
Wow.
Around half of the 300 Swedes who went to Syria and Iraq to join the terror group have returned.
Oh my gosh.
Some left-wing politicians have suggested the returning fighters should be integrated back into Swedish society and even given certain benefits to help them. While some municipalities are welcoming returning jihadists, the municipal board chairman of Stemmenstorp has expressed a desire to refuse municipal services for returning fighters. In March, Christian Sonesson of the Moderate Party said, "We think it's unreasonable. If you have joined this type of terror-stamped organization, you have also turned away from the democratic society and welfare systems we have."
Exactly. That's crazy.
So this is where
if somebody leaves your country to go and fight for ISIS, they don't get to come back.
I have to self-censor on a lot of these things to just tell you what I want to say.
Say what you need to say.
Nope, because I want to say it again tomorrow. So this is me making a calculated decision. I'm not going to say what I want to say.
Okay.
Carl, why? Because Carl Sargon of Akkad's off of Patreon. Poor guy's been shut down all over the place. He's off of Twitter.
Green eyes. He has got some green eyes.
Carl Benjamin, named UKIP candidate for EU elections. Classical liberal and social commentator Carl Benjamin, better known by his YouTube pseudonym Sargon of Akkad, has been selected as a UKIP candidate for next month's European Parliament elections. UKIP published a partial list of candidates Friday, with party leader Gerard Batten saying those chosen were felt to be most appropriate to fight for a real Brexit after the European elections. UKIP's priority is to have MEPs who will fight to make Brexit happen. Describing himself as an office worker turned successful political commentator, Mr. Benjamin addressed his 940,000 strong YouTube subscriber audience in a video on Friday.
My name is Carl Benjamin. I'm a member of the United Kingdom Independence Party, and I'm campaigning to be an MEP for the southwest of England. I'm a centrist liberal, and I voted and campaigned for Brexit, so as you might imagine, I do not actually want to become an MEP. I want to see Britain out of the European Union. However, it seems that the political class of Britain is guilty of dereliction of duty and will not deliver Britain's exit from the EU, and so now regular people like myself have to start getting our hands dirty with the political process. I am not a politician. I am an office worker and an amateur game developer turned successful political commentator. I'm part of a class of people who have emerged from their living rooms to get involved in the way that the world is run because we're not very happy with the job that's been done so far. My online presence has always been a place for levity in addition to serious commentary, and that won't change, and neither will I apologise for it. Political correctness is for other people. I'm here to tell the truth. I've always been funded exclusively by my audience, making me accountable to my audience. I've never taken money from millionaire donors or corporate sponsorships, and that will not change. So why am I doing this? Well, I don't feel represented. I don't feel that the establishment is listening to people like me or my supporters. They seem to be doing the precise opposite of what we want, and it's time for a change. It's time for people who are not professional politicians to get involved to make sure the concerns of regular people are actually represented in the halls of power. So what will I do? Well, primarily, I will advocate for Brexit, the Brexit I campaign for, which is a complete withdrawal of Britain from the European Union. So Britain is once more a sovereign country, and I will do everything in my power to help Britain leave this illegitimate bloc for good. I will also do everything in my power to obstruct or rescind Article 13 of the Copyright Directive, which will be responsible for social media censorship across the continent. I will also promote the devolution of powers from the European Union and back to the member state. Now that is obviously the opposite of what the European Union is trying to achieve, and so who knows how successful that will be, but I have to try. I will also challenge all manifestations of radical leftism as and when I find them, and I will expose them to the public via my YouTube channel so you can see what these people are doing behind closed doors. I will also oppose mass immigration to all the nations of Europe. If you would like to help me, you can do so in many ways. You can donate to me on Subscribestar or PayPal, links in the description. You can obviously like and comment on my videos, which is always encouraged. And most importantly, you can share everything I do on social media as far and wide as possible. If you want to get directly involved, I will certainly need activists in the southwest of England to help my campaign, as I will be travelling around there a lot in the next month or so, which happens to be the area I live in, so it's not so bad for once. If you're in the southwest and you would like to help, I'll leave a link to my Discord server in the description. The link I'll leave isn't the standard one and will bring you to a specific room where you can apply to help, and I'll come in and speak to whoever's in there and take your info and promote you to the workroom so we can start organising. The European Parliament elections are on the 23rd of May, which is a Thursday. It's time to vote for people who will work in your interests and not in the interests of the great and powerful. Thank you for everything. I will campaign hard, and I promise I will not let you down. Service guarantees citizenship. My name is Carl.
Wow. I love it. That was such a really good campaign ad. I love it. It's like, oh my gosh, hi, real person, want to do real thing for real people.
Yeah.
Hello. When was the last time you saw something like that?
Right. I think it's fantastic. Well done.
Yay, Benjamin. Yay, Benjamin. Sargon visit. See. That was from March. All right. Okay, moving on. This is the article. It says from Farage. It says, "Do not behave as though we have been defeated." And I think he wrote that in the Express UK. We went over a lot of that, so I don't want to go over that again for you guys. Now, this was interesting. Remember the British ISIS bride who wanted to come home? Her name was what's her name?
I can't even remember.
Wait. It's Shamima
Begum.
Yeah, Shamima Begum. Now, she says she was just kind of a housewife. Well, it turns out this Islamic State bride who became this she became a celebrity when she asked to return to Britain to raise her child, was not the mere housewife as she claimed. Born in Britain to Bangladeshi migrants, Shamima Begum became something of a media darling when she was interviewed in what was supposed to be a refugee camp, having fled the Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi crumbling caliphate in its dying days, heavily pregnant with her jihadist husband's child. which she later gave birth to and named after an Islamic warlord. There were numerous calls from labor, left liberal commentators, and even some conservative politicians to bring her home. Although polls suggested this was not what everybody wanted. So it turns out that, let's see, the details of Begum's role in ISIS have come from two sources, including Sound and Pick, whose members lived under the jihadist rule. Some of the info has been confirmed by Western intelligence, which is understood to be looking into allegations as part of a criminal investigation. The Telegraph has also shared messages reportedly sent by Miss Begum to a number of girls, including a teenager from Austria, attempting to recruit them.
Oh my gosh.
She used the pseudonym Asma online before later changing it to Amid, mother of Amid. However, sources described as well-placed have now told the Telegraph that Begum was allowed to carry a
rifle,
and earned a reputation as a strict enforcer of the Islamic State's laws, such as dress codes for women.
Wow.
For the morality police. There were lots of young European women in the Hizbah, said an activist from the Sound and Picture group, comprised of people who had lived under the Islamic State and kept track of its members' activities, told the newspaper. Some of them were very harsh, and the local population became very scared, the activist said, who knew Begum well, and that he believed she was responsible for ordering the imprisonment and lashing of Syrian women whose behavior was deemed non-Islamic. The Telegraph also reports seeing evidence that she worked to recruit people. Don't believe any of the bad things you hear about Islamic State. It's fake. You have everything you want here, she told one prospective bride. And I can help you find a good-looking husband.
Oh, my.
The activities the reports allude to are very much at odds with Begum's own account of her time in the caliphate, backed up by her terrorist husband, in which she suggested she was a simple homemaker and had nothing to do with the crimes and was no danger to the British public.
Liar!
And Sweden wants them all back. Hey, let's come on back. Come on, I know the women. I'm sure you're fine. I'm sure you didn't carry on a rifle, shoot people, have people lashed, recruit innocent.
You know, I get it that you and I are fairly privileged people. Okay. But I can't wrap my brain around being in the UK and even if your history is
sorry. This is sorry.
Even if your background is Muslim, to think to yourself, this would be really exciting to go and give up all of my freedoms and become part of this thing, and for a good looking husband, like whatever happens to you, he'll treat you really, really well. Like he'll protect you. I mean, looks really.
I don't even know.
I mean, there's absolute, what I'm saying is it kind of shows the childishness of what they're doing there, and it's actually kind of sad.
Yeah. This is Ben Habib. I do deals for a living. Taking no deal is off the table is bonkers.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
I'm muted here. I muted myself because I was playing videos.
What's happened to whistleblowers in the UK?
A few job multinationals.
You know what? I have Tommy playing. We're gonna get to.
Just want to
I think I have 3 videos playing. Oh my word! Everyone
just can't get their head
stop!
around the fact that
I'm so sorry about that. You guys are. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's try this again.
I've been very politically aware all my life.
Play, friend.
I've been a Tory voter, and more recently a Tory donor. I've never been politically active, but the reason I have stood up today and joined the Brexit Party is essentially because of this document. I just want to remind you all about this document. It was a document that David Cameron circulated at a cost of £9.4 million in the run-up to the referendum. 23 pages long, 22 pages dedicated to all the fear that we must take on board if we were to leave the European Union. But 2 very critical points were made in this document. The first was, and I'll just read it to you, the government will implement what you decide. And secondly, that this is the vote of a generation. The government didn't proceed to deliver what we decided. The government proceeded, well, in David Cameron's case, he resigned virtually immediately. Theresa May made a couple of good speeches at the outset, which was very encouraging for people like me. And then she proceeded to slip slide to the awful position in which the United Kingdom now finds itself. I do deals for a living. That's precisely what I do. And the last thing I will ever do is take no deal off the table. It's absolutely bonkers.
Well said.
There was another video I wanted to play that said, I guess it's gone, but here's another. This is a Brexit. Spread the Brexit message. I'll end with that one. Another one where one of the MPs had said, "You've seen how the European Parliament said, oh, we're not going to give you an extension. We're not going to do this." And as soon as they were faced with no deal, then they would do anything you want. They're terrified of no deal. They will do whatever you want.
Right.
To not get a no deal.
You mean one of the prospective MEPs at
No, one of the MPs
parties?
in Parliament.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to play it now anyways. I like this little ad they've done. I like the bus. That's like my favorite color.
In Birmingham, we were here 3 years ago.
Sorry.
Just before the referendum, and I remember feeling great enthusiasm. I have to say today, it's even warmer. Some who were a bit reluctant to talk to me 3 years ago, only too happy. Great sense of anger, great sense of it needs to be done. I'm finding it very, very encouraging.
My name's Paul McPartland. I work in the rag market in Birmingham, and I will be supporting the Brexit Party.
I'll support your Brexit Party because I'm fed up. Like a lot of people are fed up at the moment. Any new party coming along that can support the working man and clear up this mess the country's in.
We want to leave, and we don't want to stay with the European Union. We want to be an independent country, what we was before, and we will be again. My name is Hamid Raza, and I'm supporting Brexit Party.
My name's Alan Doherty. I'm supporting the Brexit Party.
I'm Maxine Preston and I'll support the Brexit Party.
My name is Janet and I'm supporting the Brexit Party.
I will support it, Nigel. I will support the Brexit Party. Let's get us out of here.
Oh, that's so exciting. It's such a great ad, you guys. It's such a great ad.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, now to Tommy.
But that's so ingenious for them to go into a marketplace where every single person there is doing their own business. And so they have clout and credibility. Listen, I work hard for a living. I'm doing my own thing. And I'm an independent thinker. And I'm supporting Nigel. I think that's awesome.
That was like the best ad ever. I love that. All right.
I wasn't going to reel in. I was going to wait until I got home. But with what's just happened to Julian Assange is a whistleblower. Look what's happened to whistleblowers in the UK. Look what's happened to whistleblowers everywhere. Whistleblowers need somewhere. So anyone out there with information, with factual information, with credible information, with leaks, with paperwork, with documents, with any information that they wish to expose on corruption, to expose things that are going on within the system, to expose against people. Nick Clegg, maybe, head of communications of Facebook. Anyone from Twitter. Hey, even Nigel Farage. Don't want to say Nigel Farage. I've got to get onto this. I was going to keep my mouth shut about it, but I can't. I'm watching this morning, and I saw that Hope Not Hate have said that they're going to come out strongly in the European elections against UKIP, of course, and against myself if I decided to stand. But they're going to give a free pass to the Brexit Party. If it doesn't tell you what you need to know already, Nigel Farage got us to the point of a referendum. Well done, Nigel. Thank you, yeah? And then he abandoned it. He abandoned it. And he focused on his media career and making money. Fair enough. That's what he focused on. And then, when they're going to betray Brexit, then he comes back to completely split the vote. Nigel's never spoken about issues that affect working class communities. Yeah, he's been strong on the European Union, but he got us to a point and then he abandoned it. And he abandoned it so much so that the only people he allowed to become in charge, or he put in charge of UKIP, were people that he knew would fail. He didn't want a growing resistance party. He didn't want it. And in fact, he didn't just not want it. He done everything he could to stop it. Look what he did to Anne-Marie Waters. And Anne-Marie, if you're watching this, babe, I love you. Wherever Anne-Marie is standing in her election, people should support her. She's amazing.
I like Anne-Marie, but she's not... Listen, if I were in the room with her, she would not be my friend.
Right.
I had a conversation with Anne-Marie on not pushing people away. And so when you are in a glass house, you can't throw stones. Yeah, I got a Twitter conversation. And one was, she would not stand with Gavin McGuinness or Ann Coulter because of their anti-feminist views or whatever. And first of all, Gavin McInnes is hilarious, and he's kind of joking most of the time. And he is definitely a pro-woman person.
Right. Okay.
He supports a lot of people on, social media who are females. And Ann Coulter is obviously, in practice, a feminist who talks about women do want to stay at home and raise children. And so this is where Tommy, and I would love to sit down and talk to him and say, listen, I would love for everybody to get along. I would love, and this is where Kate Hopkins said, hey, I wish Gerard Batten and Anne-Marie and Nigel could all get along. But Anne-Marie was kicked out of UKIP too, guys. So don't, it's like everybody's throwing stones. And sometimes when you can't get along, the best thing to do is I don't get on here and rail against Anne-Marie Waters. Yeah. I don't get on here and rail against Tommy Robinson. I don't rail against Nigel because I see that each of them have a passion for something. And I support the positivity in what they're doing.
In Christianity, we have all these different denominations and how on our show, we don't let you guys or we don't encourage to tear down a specific denomination just because there are theological views that you don't agree with or you think aren't biblical or whatever. That's not the point. The point is to bring everybody to Jesus. And in this situation, the point is to bring everybody to Brexit. Right. And we have to unite under that common goal. And so when you are sitting there tearing each other apart, you're not getting to that common goal. So as you watch this video from Tommy, I don't know if you're going to play any more of this.
I will.
But I want you guys to try to take a step back and take yourself out from the situation, because when you hear from somebody like Tommy that you love, that you support, and that you trust, you want to be able to take every single thing that they say as truth and fact. And you can't do that because that doesn't make you an independent thinker. When Tommy says these things about Nigel Farage, I totally disagree with him, but I'm still going to back and support Tommy. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do as well. Don't be a puppet and just listen to Nigel Farage. When Nigel Farage says things about Tommy, I will call him out every day of the week. Nige, you're wrong. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to Tommy here. So you need to be able to listen to and love a person without saying, okay, you know what? Every single thing that they say is spot on.
Right. It's very strong.
Be an independent thinker
on all of the issues. He tried to destroy her, or the party did within UKIP. Now, what he done was he put Henry Bolt in him, who he knew would fail. Why? What's his reasoning for that? They didn't want a strong party. When you then see the opportunity with since Gerard Batten's leadership, I believe they've gone from 17,000 since they aligned, or since they currently started working with myself. And since Gerard started reaching out to I'd say the general working class and the public in this country, they went from 17,000 to 28,000. Then we have an emerging resistance party, a populist party growing. Nigel Farage comes back into politics, completely divide the vote and split the vote, to tell you he represents you. Now, it's frustrating for me because it's clear evidence. Home Not Hate are not working against him. They're not going to tackle Nigel Farage. They're going to tackle UKIP and myself. There's the evidence in yourself. Nigel is the establishment. Nigel is a city banker, a toff, who looks down upon his...
I want Tommy Robinson to be an MEP. I'm going to pray to that end. I want Carl Benjamin, who's actually a classical liberal, who actually is very anti-Christian in a lot of ways and makes fun of Christians in a lot of ways. I still agree with him on some things, right? I don't know if we could work together as a political party because a lot of these people, I don't know if they want me around. I'll work with anybody. But most people don't want me around.
Right. Hang on, let me interrupt you really quick, and I want to explain something to those of you that may not, that you really want to believe Tommy. You want to hear what he's saying when he says that Nigel Farage is establishment. No, Nigel Farage is not establishment.
No, the establishment hate Nigel Farage.
Listen, when he says that Nigel came back to split the vote and that's all you need to know, you need to understand something. You and I may not fully comprehend why Nigel can't be part of the UKIP party anymore. We don't understand the ins and outs of that. Okay, so let's set that aside. But Nigel had to come back, because if he doesn't, then this whole thing is going to fall apart. So it's either Nigel doesn't come back and the whole thing falls apart and he can't join UKIP. So he had to do the Brexit party. So so Tommy here is 100% wrong in saying that Nigel came back to split the vote, or it should tell you all that you need to know. That's absurd. Nigel came back because that's what Nigel has to do. Okay.
I would love for Tommy to come out and say, listen, Nigel, you got to do what you got to do. We're going to campaign under UKIP.
Yeah.
nose upon working
Stop
class
throwing
people
each other
like
under
you.
the bus.
That's
both
the
of
reality,
you.
and I know that's
And you
hard to
guys.
take because it was hard.
Here's the thing. What you're accusing Nigel of is exactly what you're doing to Nigel.
Exactly.
You're throwing him under the bus, calling him horrible names, because and it's literally the pot calling the kettle black. Pot, kettle. You know what? Children, just separate and do what you need to do. You don't need to be talking about Nigel right now.
Right.
Me to take because I admired Nigel's fight, but then he exposed himself with his classism, and by watching who he put in charge of UKIP, it was very clear he wanted it to fail, and I thought he wanted it to fail because he wanted to be known as Nigel Farage. He was UKIP. Now he's not, because UKIP's continued to grow and fight under Gerard Batten's leadership, and then from that, sorry, there's a big peacock in front of me. Yeah, I'll have a look here. So he has he's decided to try and destroy UKIP, and then he comes out right at the last minute. And he hasn't set up a political party; he's set up a BREXIT party that would enable him and his friends, who are all ex-Tories, to milk the gravy train a bit longer of the European Union and divide and split the vote. And the only reason why I haven't yet announced that I would be standing as MEP is because it's a difficult position, because I wanted one party as a populist revolutionary party. That's what I think this country needs. A real party that will speak on the issues and the truths that affect you in your community. Nigel won't do that. Nigel's never been in a working class community after 6 p.m. He stood and had his photo taken with a couple of beers. He's never been there. He doesn't understand it. Yeah? And he doesn't care either, to be honest. He does not care. And most of his comments that he gives are degrading towards tattooed to the head, tattooed to their head working class people, racist thugs, because they have an opinion about Islam. Islamophobia. He actually pushes the Islamophobia term. Unbelievable. But anyway, I don't want to get on a rant about him. I want to get on a rant more about, or ask you if people have information, come forward. The email address is www.tommy.robinson@tutanata.com. I'll include it in this. It's just an opportunity for people to expose. I was going to wait till I've got home to do this, but I thought with what happened with Julian Assange, with what I'm watching this Brexit party flying, we're launching today, we're representing you. No, you're the establishment. You're the establishment, you're a complete decoy, and you're absolutely splitting the vote. And that's what your purpose is. That's what you're doing. You're going to be successful in doing it, I believe. I believe that if UKIP is standing in your area, you've got to go out and vote for them. UKIP are not the establishment. That's very clear and evident. Look at the attacks. Is Nigel Farage come under attack anymore? Would Nigel Farage be Sir Nigel Farage after this? I'm disappointed in a lot of things, man. I'm disappointed that I think that UKIP need to really grasp it, that if you want to electrify the working class, you know, the 30% of people that don't vote, the people who've never felt the need to vote, you need to show you represent them. You need to show you're willing to not be pander. You've seen Nigel Farage completely pander to political correctness. Gerard Batten doesn't. He's a very strong leader. I have utmost respect for him.
There.
I just wish they'd pulled a finger out.
He said that Nigel Farage panders to political correctness. Well, and this was my thought on this earlier. Unfortunately, Tommy, I know you're not watching my video, but anybody that is having the same mindset as Tommy, I want you to hear me very clearly. Tommy doesn't have the love of God. Tommy flies off the handle a lot. And Tommy lets his emotions lead him. He doesn't have strategy. He lacks strategy. This game that we're playing, even if you are 100% right, if you go forward with that, you will fail. If you don't think it through clearly and use strategy to implement what your goals are.
If I was to strategize with Tommy, I would have come out and said nothing necessarily against Nigel Farage. I would say, hey, vote who you need to vote for in the area that you need to vote for. Where I'm standing.
Right.
I'm standing for UKIP. Vote for me.
Right.
You don't need to vote for a party. You vote in candidates. Okay? So vote for the candidate.
Right.
Then your area that you want in.
Right. Well, what Tommy's talking about here about splitting the vote, he's doing the exact same thing. He's trying to draw this line in the sand saying either you have to be on our side or your establishment. So he's pretty much alienating anybody that feels that they need to vote Brexit
Right.
with the Brexit party.
Right.
And you don't want to do that. You need to not alienate your followers and alienate people that like you. We have to join together. We may not understand the workings and the thinking process of others on the other side because, yeah, guess what? Nigel and Tommy come from two different life spectrums. They have two different experiences. But guess what, Tommy? The people that Nigel is going to appeal to, you may not appeal to. And to Nigel, I would say the people that Tommy's going to appeal to, you will not appeal to. Okay? And so you should join together in that instead of tearing each other down. And that's what I want to say to those of you in the comment section, right? That I'm continuing to see these comments of Nigel is done and yada, 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 yada. Guys, pull your head out of the sand, okay? Nigel is a good person. Nigel has a pure heart. Nigel is not the establishment. His strategy may not be fly off the handle and run full force naked through the woods like Tommy, okay? That may not be the way that he does things. His strategy may be, you know what? I want to buddy up so that I can still be considered legitimate because guess what? Tommy has alienated himself, not himself. Let me rephrase that. Tommy has gone so extreme that he's no longer considered, like he can't go on to a regular news station, unfortunately. And he's continued to make these decisions. Are they right? Yeah, he actually is in the right when he does these things.
What I would
but
tell.
It makes it so that he can't be on the mainstream media. And that's where Nigel knows he has to be.
Humility is a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I'm going to pray that he has a come to Jesus moment in that I know that God is with Tommy. I back and support Tommy. I think he's fantastic. I think what he's done, I think he's been under a lot of pressure. I think prison did a lot to him and twisted his mind a lot. He got angrier and angrier. Very unjust. He should never have been in prison. Never should have been in solitary confinement. And that will mess with your head.
Right.
So pray for him. And pray that he finds peace.
Right.
And I guarantee you, when he finds peace and he finds love, he'll be welcomed back into the arms and he'll be able to fight a different fight.
So everybody's asking me, how do you know that Tommy's not a Christian? In the video where Tommy was talking about, he was in that chat room with his friends and then what he had said got an explode about scoring gear in Qatar or something like that, drugs. When he made that video explaining that, he says, I am not a Christian. I don't believe in God. And that was probably like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't think that has changed since then. And so when I come on this show and I tell you guys, Tommy is not a Christian, Tommy says, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in God. And so in that, you and I both know that when you're fighting Islam, you're fighting the devil. And the only way you can beat the devil is with the power of God. So Tommy will lose every single time. And that's why it is imperative that we pray for Tommy, that he have a come to Jesus moment.
And as Patriot Gallery said last week, I want to be clear that God is with Tommy.
Yes.
That God is speaking through Tommy.
Right.
That God is using Tommy. And he just can't see it. And when he sees it,
I believe he obviously
it'll
will
open
be
his
a
eyes
Christian
and he's
one
like,
day.
oh, you're the real God.
Right.
Jesus is real. This is the way, the truth,
I think you'll
and the
see
light.
a complete change in who he is and how he handles himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And he doesn't need to go to church every Sunday. He just needs to know that Jesus is real and allow God to speak through him and give him the peace that he needs to make these, and wisdom to make these kind of decisions. So, I guess that's kind of the end of our show.
Dale says, has God ever worked through unbelievers? Yes. All the time.
Yeah, he does all the time. He obviously does. He works, because I think that the Bible talks about people who do the right thing, not knowing that they're doing the right thing for who they're doing it for. And Tommy does the right thing. Speaking up for justice, speaking up for people who are abused. That is God. God is working through him. And I want to tell him, God has actually been using you, Tommy.
Yeah.
And you do know God. And deep down inside, you know it's God, because that voice that he keeps hearing that says justice, 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 justice. That's God's voice. And I would love for him to meet the, I forget his name, the ex-Muslim who just recently died. He became a Christian. And I would have loved for him to sit down with him, because the love of God was all over him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he was taken out by the devil. His love of God was all over this man. and I can't remember his name right now, but his message, you know, is love, and listening to him has helped me to be able to say, okay, Muslims need to come to know Jesus too, right? And so anyways, go ahead.
No, that's it. I mean, in my Bible studies that I haven't had a chance to get back to, the last one that we talked about was being God's sheep. And Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice and they know my voice.
Right.
And so when Jesus calls to you, and the only way that you can actually come to him is when you already belong to him. Okay, when you're already his. So I believe in my heart of hearts that Tommy is one of God's sheep. And so Tommy does hear God's voice and he does know his voice. He just hasn't come answering to it yet. So I'm going to end with this video. This woman is it's not necessarily Europe wide, but she is Masheed Alinjad. She's the woman who does My Stealthy Freedom. Right. And she says, in the hands of dictators, headscarf is not, are you going to get it? Yeah. Is not just a piece of cloth. It's the most visible symbol of oppression. She says, when we get arrested and our families being harassed for protesting for his hijab, the female politicians who go to Iran should not respect the discriminatory law.
For the New Zealand Prime Minister to show her solidarity with Muslim women. I wanted to hug her. But by wearing hijab, you have to be smart and understand that this is not just a small piece of cloth. When this is in the hand of the Muslim, the extremists, in the hand of the Islamic government, in the hand of Saudi Arabia, or those who oppress us, then this is not just a small piece of cloth. This is the most visible symbol of oppression. You have to understand that when Muslim women fighting against compulsory hijab, do not see this as sign of being a Muslim woman. I want to show you why I cannot keep silent.
Should have made it big. Hey, come back, come back. I have to make it small. Oh.
Yeah,
look,
go ahead.
Look, in Iran, women are doing this. I brought my stick to show you that. Women are doing this. One of the women who put the headscarf on a stick and waved it like that. You know what happened to her? She got disappeared. We don't know what happened to her. We don't know where she is. Nobody knows where Vidam of Ahed is. 29 people repeated her protest. We don't know what happened to them. Yesterday, they arrested 23-year-old girl Yasaman Aryani. Her mother ran after her. They arrested her mother as well. We don't know what happened to her. What I want you, what actually Oprah said here in the same stage last night. She said, if you want to save the planet, first save yourself. Female politicians, feminists, if you want to save the planet, first save yourself. When you go to Iran, stand up for your own dignity. Do not obey compulsory hijab laws. Don't say that this is a law, you have to respect the law, because slavery used to be legal. That's all I want. Show your solidarity.
Wow, that's really powerful.
And so, you know, I think that when we see videos like that, we want to say Islam's horrible, right? But you guys, there are lots of Muslims in this world.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good people.
Yeah.
And we need to see more Muslim reformers. Majid is awesome. I love to watch him. He's a socialist. He's a lefty. But he stands up for human rights. So anyways, I want to play that.
Oh, that's really great. I'm really glad that you did. And I love her little frangipani in her hair.
I know. She always puts a flower in her hair. Well, she posts pictures of herself in a hijab. And could you imagine containing that hair?
No. And I love that she actually lets her hair be big and puts a flower in her hair to kind of draw attention to the fact that she's not wearing a hijab. I think that's absolutely beautiful. All right, so we're going to sign off here.
Yeah.
We'll be back this week sometime. Friday for sure at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly roundup.
Yeah, well, we had 2 videos this week. We did Julian Assange and Candace Owens. Those videos, you guys, are taking off, so we're really excited about that. We're getting some more views, so we're excited to get a little bit more out there, kind of find a way around the censorship algorithms.
Yeah, your Candace Owens video was really awesome, and it's had like 1,200 views. I was telling Leah the other day, and she said, Michelle, don't talk about it. It makes me sad. There was a period of time where most of our videos didn't get less than 5,000 views. And I was kind of like disappointed when something would only have like 3,000 views or something. And I'm like, oh man, it didn't get that many views. A lot of our videos had 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 views.
We were put into the suggested video.
Exactly. But I want you guys to not be discouraged. We're still here for as long as God wants us to be doing Resistance Chicks. And it is my belief
we will find ways around.
That God knows exactly what he's doing. And our message isn't, we could... you know, 1 million people could hear what we have to say, okay? But it still may only reach the heart of the same amount of people that are watching right now.
That's true.
So it's not about numbers. It's about the people's lives that are being changed. And so I want to personally thank you guys for supporting us and sticking with us in spite of all the censorship. Real deal. So we love you. God loves you. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
We didn't read any Facebook comments.
If it's the truth. I did read some of them.
Okay.
Patricia Ann thinks that it seems to me Nigel's strategy has been splitting the Brexit supporters and stalling for May, noting nothing to do with Tommy from my perspective. So there, that's a good point. All right, so we'll be back Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope that nobody else catches any of this gunk. That is my prayer for you. 107 Milford, Ohio 45150. If you send us your letters, they will be read on air unless otherwise noted. I was looking for that. Actually, I couldn't figure out where it went. Is it underneath here? I think there's an Easter card from Lori.
Oh, that's so cute.
Happy Easter. Hoping your Easter is filled to the top with surprises and fun times that just never stop. Have a great Easter. Thanks so much for the great shows. I really enjoy the shows, and you both have such amazing voices. Best wishes. Take care. God bless, Lori. Thank you, Lori, so much for this card. It's very, very, very cute. It's our first Easter card, actually. So thank you for that. And Easter is coming up. It's next. Are we going to be doing a show on Easter Sunday?
I don't know, because I don't know.
I have no idea.
If we did, it would definitely be, praise and worship and songs and stuff.
Yeah. All right. So for sure, but we'll let you guys know on our show Friday night what the plan is for Sunday. We love you.
Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
If it's actually the truth. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys, and God bless.
I was cold.